Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back. My name's Adriana. I'm a knitter living on the east coast of Canada. And today I'm going to share what I've been knitting on the past month. I have a few finished objects, things that I've completed, as well as a few new cast-ons that are my current works in progress. So we'll go through all of those together. The knitting month for me started off really strong. I was really excited about all my projects and I wanted to really work on them a lot and complete the projects. And by the end of the month, I was feeling a little, not defeated, but just tired because of some issues that I ran into with one of the projects, which I'll get into when I talk about it. But yeah, I'm feeling a little like I need a break. And I think I said something similar at the end of like my last episode, that I was ready for a break, but I don't think I really took a break. So I am feeling like I need a break now. Sometimes it's nice to completely switch gears and do something different for a bit and have some separation from a certain hobby or task. And then when you come back to it, you feel more excited about it. So that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. But there are some things I want to get finished before Christmas. So I don't know if I actually will take a break. Like I'm saying this, but I don't know if I actually will. Before I get started talking about my projects, I'll share what I'm wearing. This is the Cinema Sweater by Veronica Lindberg. I have been wearing it a lot this season. I finished it, I think in like the late spring, maybe early summer, this past spring, summer. And so this is the first season that I'm really wearing it. And I'm really loving it. I did put this through a good test of like its warmth. I went whale watching on the cold Atlantic Ocean. It was kind of like the end of September, I think. And yeah, I only wore this. I had a scarf as well, but I was warm in this with, I was wearing my square neck camisole, which is made out of merino, and I was very warm. I didn't need a coat. I was happy on the boat, on the water. So I feel like that was a good test for this, right? To really see how warm it could be. The yarn is, I don't remember exactly what the names of the yarns were. I know they're both drops yarns, but mix of wool and alpaca. I know one of the strands I used was a brushed alpaca silk. So yeah, pretty warm. Okay, let's get into the projects I finished. The first project, and I can't remember if this was a work in progress last time or if this is like totally new, but I started and finished these felted slippers for my daughter's birthday. Oh, there's a sparkle from her birthday party decorations in there. Anyway, this pattern is, the English name of it is the Double Slippers, and it's a pattern by Liv Stangland. It's a free pattern. You can access it through Ravelry, and it's available in Norwegian, Swedish, and English. So I, of course, followed the English pattern. And the yarn I used is Isager Tvini yarn in the color 19S. I believe it's called Rhubarb was the color name, and it's just like a deep pink with kind of like flecks of darker color in there. So this yarn, the story with this yarn, I bought this yarn for her birthday project last year, which was a blanket. Back then, I didn't totally understand what it meant, what a pattern meant when it said to hold a yarn double and then gave like the quantity of yarn you'd need. I thought that if it said, this is the quantity of yarn you need and you need to hold it double, you need to hold two strands together, I thought that you needed double the amount of yarn it said. So for her birthday blanket, I remember ordering the yarn and I'm like, this is an expensive blanket and it's not that big. And then I finished the blanket and I'm like, I have more than half of the yarn I bought left over. And so I just saved it, and used it for her birthday project this year. I still have leftovers, so I'll incorporate it into her birthday project, I guess, for next year, whatever I decide to do. But yeah, I think that's kind of fun actually, that she's got, you know, her blanket in this color and then some felted slippers in this yarn color. And it's nice because it's like, since it's felted, it's, even though it's the same color, it's a different texture. And yeah, the slippers did come out a little bit bigger than what her foot size currently is, but it's fine. She has slippers that fit her now, so when she grows out of those, these ones will be ready to go for her. This pattern does not call for this yarn weight. This yarn weight, I believe it's actually a lace weight yarn, and I ended up holding 4 strands of it together to somewhat get gauge. I didn't end up exactly on gauge, as usual with most of my projects, but it worked out in the end. This project is very interesting. I'll put some pictures of what it looks like after you're done the knitting part, before you do the felting part. The shape of it is very interesting, and I couldn't wrap my head around like what part I was knitting at when I started, what part am I actually knitting of the actual slipper. And that was a little bit difficult, because if I would have been able to visualize how you were going to fold the slipper after you're done knitting it, how you're going to fold it into itself to make the actual slipper, I would have done some things differently for how I did the pattern. Since it was my first time doing the pattern, I did look through some projects on Ravelry and saw that a lot of people did make modifications to, I don't know, I guess make the slipper maybe fit a bit better, eliminate any seaming that you would have to do, which I liked the idea of, but I didn't have the brain capacity to take notes from other people's project pages and try and figure it out for like the size that I was doing. A lot of times I find people just write down like for what size they do, which like obviously that makes sense. They're writing about that specific project they did. So unless I would have been able to find someone who did like the smallest size of these slippers and made those modifications, I was like, I'm just going to go do the pattern as it says. Then once I'm done, I'll be able to better understand how these work. And the next time I do this pattern, I will be more prepared to like make some changes. So that's what I did. I knit them just to pattern. I did have to do the seaming at the end. And next time there are a few changes that I would make. I would for sure start with a probably a Turkish cast on. Actually, I did actually start another pair, and I did use a Turkish cast on. You could also do Judy's Magic cast on. I just find Turkish cast on easier. You don't have to like measure out a long tail. Yeah, so that's the first change that I would do, because I didn't think the seaming would be a big deal, because I'm like, you're felting it, so it's gonna just all singe together anyway. But you definitely can see where the seam is on the inside and the outside on both of them. And I didn't do a great job at seaming, because I was like, it's gonna felt together. But when they were finished felting and I shaped them, I'm like, actually you can see here that I didn't do a great job at seaming, and they're definitely still separated. What I ended up doing was I just took some of the ends that I had snipped off from weaving in the ends on these slippers and brushed them out with like my cat brush that we use to brush our cats. And till it was just like the fiber, fluffy, yeah, really fluffy fiber bits. And I needle felted it into the seam on the outside. I didn't bother with doing the inside, but I did the outside just because I thought there might be some like pressure or more tension on the outside. So I didn't want it to split apart, right? So I did that, and also for like aesthetic reasons. I didn't like that you could really see the seam. You can still see it, but it looked a lot more noticeable before. It was my first time needle felting, and I thought needle felting, you take a needle and you just stab the fiber until it sticks. I didn't know you needed like a special felting needle, so I sat there for so long just stabbing with like a tapestry needle, stabbing, and I'm like, this isn't sticking. I tried making the fiber a little bit wet. I thought that might help get it to stick. I tried actually like manually like trying to like rub it on, trying to felt it that way, and it wasn't working. And then I finally like actually looked up what needle felting is, and yeah, you need to have an actual felting needle that has barbs on it to get the fiber to stick to itself, to actually stick together. And I dug through my like crafting stuff, and someone had given me a needle felting package that they were getting rid of with a bunch of little things of fiber and felting needles in it. So I was able to use that to reinforce this seam, make it not so noticeable, and hopefully make it stronger. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. And I did do this one too. And yeah, just for reference, this is what it would have looked. This is what it would have looked like before on the outside. Like, see these kind of holes? And then I just tried my best to kind of fill them in. And yeah, just make it a bit stronger so that it wouldn't split apart. I love how these turned out, like the fuzzy texture. I did felt them twice. Maybe 3 times. I think I just did twice. And all I did was I put it in the washing machine on hot and let them go. I did put them in the dryer after the first round because they weren't like felted enough after the first round. And so I put them in the dryer to see if they would felt more. And they did, but it still wasn't enough. So I put them in the washing machine again. And then after that round in the washing machine, it obviously wasn't small enough, but I felt like the fabric, if it would have been felted more, it would have been too stiff. I felt like. So I stopped there and formed the slippers and let them dry. And I feel like they're a good, like, feeling, like stiffness. They definitely are able to like hold their structure, and they're thick. There's really the tiniest bit of stretch, teeny tiny bit of stretch. And then what I decided to do for the feet, because I figured they would be really slippery, like especially for like a little kid who's going to be like running around in them. I wanted there to be a little bit more grip on the bottom. So I went to my fabric store, and they sell little like random cuts of leather that they're just like little squares that are just like ends and whatever. I got that and flipped it so that the like suede side would be out. I don't know if that's the proper term, but the one that has more grip on it would be facing out, and then just stitch them on with the same yarn that I used for the slippers. Because they're too big for my daughter, she hasn't really like walked around in them too much. She's tried them on and walked a little bit, but she hasn't done any like running. I did also buy little like vinyl dot things to stick on, you know, like what are on the bottom of like kids' socks and stuff. I did get some of those to put on if this is still too slippery. So this will probably be for like, could be spring, but probably more like next fall and winter. So we'll try that then, and then see if this is grippy enough or not. But I really like how the leather bottom turned out. And I just did, like the slippers are the same shape. So I just did the same shape for each, like the bottom of each foot, like not like a right foot, left foot. I feel like it'll just kind of mold to her feet, whichever one she chooses for whichever foot. Modifications that I would make for next time is for sure doing a Turkish cast on or Judy's Magic cast on to eliminate the need for seaming this part. I feel like it would look a lot better. It eliminates the whole seaming step, and yeah, I would definitely do that. I would also make the foot that goes inside, I would make that a little bit smaller than the outside foot, because I can feel in here, and I think it'll go away once you're actually wearing it, but it's a little bit kind of like lumpy in here because you have two of the same size things that are not really stretchy. Like it's not like the outside one is super stretchy to stretch around the one that's going inside. So yeah, it feels just like a little, like there's too much fabric inside. Yeah, I'm hoping it goes away once you actually start wearing it. But yeah, definitely something that I would do, and I'm planning to do for the next pair that I make. So that was my first finished project. I'm actually going to talk about my most recently finished project next, because I started that project and then I ran into some problems. And so then before I fixed those problems, I knew what I needed to do to fix them. I just didn't want to do it. So I put it on pause, started and finished another project, and then I went and finished that first project again. And I used what I learned in that first project to complete the second project. So I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about the most recently finished project before I talk about the project that I finished like right after the slippers. That didn't make any sense. Okay, I'm talking about the Sibling sweater. This is a sweater that I made for my son for Christmas. This pattern, let me get it up. This pattern, the name is Sibling Sweater, and it's by Laura Penrose. I used Cascade 220 for the yarn for this. Colors were, the beige color was 9600 tan, and then the green color is 9448 olive heather. I think I put it in correct. So yeah, this like beige and dark green color. This project, I was not on gauge. The stitch gauge, I was pretty close with stitch gauge, but row gauge, I was way off. If she said to knit, let's say like 20 rows and it should be 6 centimeters, I was knitting like 13 rows and it was 6 centimeters. I don't know if those numbers actually make sense, but like I had to knit way fewer rows than what the pattern said to reach the lengths that were in the pattern. And that usually wouldn't be a problem, but I think it did cause some problems with the striping, because I was reaching, like, for example, the finished sleeve length and the finished body length not on the correct stripe. So I would have had to make it like a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. And then I think it also kind of messed up this. I had issues with the neck from the very beginning, feeling like it just looked strange. I felt like the neck was totally like on the front. I feel like I did kind of solve the problem now, but part of it, I don't know. I think maybe because my increases, they've got to be so much longer than what her increases are in the pattern, because my rows are longer than what the pattern says. I don't know if that made it. So it seemed like the neck was going to be like that. That's what it seemed like for a long time, that the neck was going to be totally all in the front. And I was like, is this just the way drop shoulders go? I had just finished knitting a drop shoulder like not too long ago, and I don't remember being like feeling like the neck is like looks weird. So I did knit the neck band collar pretty quickly. Like I think as soon as I kind of like joined under the arms, or even before actually, I knit the neck just to like see if it was looking good, and it wasn't. It really, yeah, just really looked like, I don't know how to explain it, but it looked like the neck was all on the front, that none of it was, it didn't look like it was coming out the top. It looked like it was completely coming out the front. What I ended up doing was I left it for a bit. I knit the body, and then I also was like kind of trying to tell myself that maybe the neck will expand with blocking. And I also thought that the neck, well, I don't know, I'm showing you, but I'll put in pictures. The neck was looking really like the stripes were really needing to squeeze in to the neckband. Yeah, I'll put a picture so you can see. But yeah, it looked like the stripes were really squished in at the neck instead of just like meeting the neck. So what I ended up doing was taking out the whole neck, redoing it, and adding, I think 20 more stitches, which on like a children's collar, like that's a lot. So I ended up with, yeah, at least 20 more stitches than what the pattern said. And basically I just made sure I picked up a stitch for every single row that I passed. I don't know if maybe that's because my rows were so much longer that if I was skipping stitches, it was really cinching it in, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, after I did that, the neck was looking better. I did not do, I did like the folded collar. I did not do, she has you doing like a purl ridge to like get the easier fold. I didn't do that. But yeah, I am happy with how the neck looks now. My next problem came with the body. I don't think I had completely finished the body when I went back and did the neck, because I got to a point in the body where I was at the length it said to stop for the pattern. And I was looking at my son's clothes that fit him now, and I'm like, so I was gonna stop here, like do this contrast color, and then this would have been the hem. And I'm like, it seems way too short. So I kind of held it up against some sweaters that fit him well and decided that I would go ahead and add. The thing with stripes is that you have to do a whole other, like I couldn't be like, oh, I can add an inch. It would be like I have to add 2 of these stripes so that I end on the correct color. And because my row gauge was a lot longer, each stripe is like a full inch, like a good inch. So I found that a little bit tricky when I was doing this pattern. I did end up just doing another repeat of the stripes and then doing the ribbing after that. It's a good length. Yeah, the body was, I think, the most enjoyable part of this process. I don't love striping, like knitting stripes, like the yarn management, catching the floats. I found, not that it was difficult, but I was getting a bit frustrated with, like, I felt like you were able to kind of see behind the white. Like, I feel like you can see the green behind the white. So I don't know if I didn't catch these floats properly or what. I also started following the patterns suggestion for how to do jogless stripes. And this is what my stripes were looking like when I followed the suggestion in the pattern. I feel like that is a very noticeable jog. And what I ended up doing, I was like, I don't like how that looks. And I felt like it kind of made a little hole, actually. Like you can see there, you can see my finger through there. It made kind of a little hole. So I ended up doing nothing. I did nothing special for switching between yarns for the body. And this is, sorry, so I think for the first couple stripes, I did the method that said in pattern. But for like these stripes, I just did nothing special. And there is, you can see like that there's like a little bit of a difference, but nothing that I was too like upset about. Yeah, so that was the body. Then the sleeves, I did the sleeves and I knit them to the length in the pattern. And I looked at so many people's pattern photos. I felt like these sleeves were a little bit short for my son's like arm length and like compared to his sweaters and like long sleeve shirts that he wears now. And I looked at so many people's project pages, counting like how many stripes, how many contrasting color stripes are on their body versus their sleeves. And every single one I saw had 2 less stripes on the arms than the body. And that's where I was on these sleeves. And I was like, I don't want I don't want them to be crazy long. And I know that they're going to grow a little bit with blocking. So I just stopped there. I was like, that's what everyone else's projects are. 2 less stripes on the arms than on the body. And I tried it on him after I finished the first sleeve because I was like, I don't want to knit the whole second sleeve and then have to like rip them both out because they're too short. So I tried it on him after the first sleeve was done and it fit him well. And I thought it would grow maybe an inch after I blocked it because of, I feel like this part right here where you pick up the stitches, it's always a little bit pulled in a bit. And then after you block it, it lays flatter. So I thought that'll grow a little bit. The yarn itself will just relax and expand a little bit. And yeah, I thought it would be like the perfect fit. Did the other sleeve the same way, washed and blocked it, tried it on him, and it did fit. I took some pictures and sent it to my mom and sister and we're like, okay, do you think, like, be honest, do you think these sleeves are going to be too short? And, you know, it was fine when he would like raise his arms like this and put them up. It wasn't like it was coming way down, but it did just seem like it fit him now and he was going to be growing out of it within a couple months. So I knew in my heart as soon as I like tried it on him and saw, I was like, I think I'm gonna have to redo these sleeves. And not just for the length reason, it was a few reasons. The length, also, I felt like there were too many decreases and it was too tight around his wrists. And also, I had a lot of trouble doing stripes on the arms. I did magic loop on the arms, and I found that so confusing to try and do the yarn management for striping in magic loop. And the jogs on the sleeve looked horrible. I'll put in a picture. So the jogs looked really bad on both sleeves. I felt like the sleeves were too short and the cuffs were too tight. Like I needed to do less decreasing. At that point, I knew I had to basically completely take out both sleeves and redo both of them. I wasn't ready to do that, so I set it aside, and then I started my next project and then came back to this one. So I'll finish talking about this one. I did, after, I feel like when you know in your heart that you have to rip something out, sometimes it's easier to be like, I feel like I need to do this. I don't want to because I finished this. I was a finished object. I was done. Of course, you don't want to go back and rip out, especially if you've like woven in the ends and stuff. Like, you don't want to do that. You just finished it. So I find that it's easier to set a project aside for a week or two and then come back to it, reevaluate, be like, okay, do I actually need to rip this out? Yes or no? And then I find your brain is more like, yes, I do need to rip it out, and I feel okay with it. Or your brain is like, okay, I've had some space from this project and I'm not so like looking at all the tiny details, and actually it's okay, I don't need to rip it out. So when I came back to this project, I looked at the sleeves. I had made improvements on like figuring out how to make the jogs like not a thing in magic loop in the sleeves on this one. So I was like, okay, I know how to make these sleeves look good. I know I want to do, like, I know how I want to do the decreases to make the cuffs fit better. I'm ready to pull these sleeves out. So I did. I unraveled all of the sleeves. Oh, there was another big reason that I wanted to redo this. I could have just washed it. I could have solved this problem without redoing the sleeves. But when I first like washed and blocked this, I was worried about the dye like bleeding, and then maybe like the lighter color, like the beige color, absorbing some of the green, dark green dye. So I did just cold water, and I read online that you could use a little bit of vinegar in your water to like stop the bleeding. So that's what I did. And this sweater smelled like a pickle for the weeks that it sat there waiting for me to come back to it. And the whole time that I was reknitting the sleeves, I'm like, I got a bit of a headache sometimes because it just smelled so vinegary. I could have just like rewashed it without the vinegar, or like done like a rinse to get the vinegar out, the vinegar smell. But in the end, I redid both sleeves, and I didn't use vinegar the second time because I didn't have any issues with it bleeding. Okay, let's talk about these new and improved sleeves. First of all, I feel like the jogging isn't bad, right? The striping looks good. I did 3 less decreases than what the pattern said, and find that this fit is a lot better around his wrists. And of course, I knit it longer, so like it would have been like about 2 inches longer on each one. Very happy I did do that. Now it's done, and it'll fit him. For sure it'll fit him all throughout the season, and probably next year too. Next year it'll be like the sleeves fit, but like just fit. Reknitting the first sleeve on this went by no problem. I was excited. I knew how to fix my problems. But then reknitting the second sleeve on it, I feel like the second time knitting the second sleeve took the same amount of time as doing both sleeves the first time, plus both sleeves on this sweater, plus like the reknit of the first sleeve. I found myself counting like every time, like every stripe, I would count how many stripes have I done? How many more do I need to do? Okay, how many stripes now? How many more do I need to do? Like multiple times, even within one stripe. So getting through the last sleeve was definitely, it was a push. And this is the reason why I'm like, I feel like I need a break from knitting for a little bit. I think that's all I need to say about this sweater. I really enjoyed the pattern. I love how it looks. It looks so beautiful. I really like the increases on the back here and how the shoulder looks. Like it's a beautiful sweater that looks like a lot of thought went into the pattern. And I love how it turned out. I wish that I didn't have to reknit so much of this sweater. Like I had to reknit the neck, I had to reknit both arms. Yeah, so I wish I didn't have to do that, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. My last finished object is another Sibling sweater. Oh, I made this in the size 3 to 4. And I don't know if my finished dimensions are exactly like to what the pattern says. I do know I used like maybe just a little bit more yarn than what the pattern said, with the extra like length on, like the extra stripe on the sleeve and extra stripe on the body. I did use a little bit more yarn than what the pattern said that I was going to use. So I think it's like about there with like being the right measurements for the size. All I know is that it fits him, so that's all I care about. This is my second Sibling sweater, again by Laura Penrose, and this is in the size 1 to 2. My daughter just turned 2, so I was hoping that this would be a little bit more on the oversized size for her, so I did do an extra like repeat of the stripe on the arms and on the body, just to make it a little, like last a little bit longer for her to wear. The colors I used the same like beige color for the main color, which one more time is Cascade 220 9600 tan, and then the contrast color is 9408 Cordovan. And the contrast color is technically a Cascade 220 Heather's color. Now this color, the contrast color, in like when I got it, it was like this beautiful burgundy, like deep dark reddy purple. And then when I started knitting it, I'm like, it looks kind of brown. Like this is giving kind of coffee and cream vibes, right? So it definitely, I feel like it depends on what I'm thinking of. Like if I'm thinking brown, it looks brown. If I'm thinking burgundy, it looks burgundy. So I don't care that much. I think it's still a cute sweater for my daughter. I don't have too much to say about this because this went really well. I immediately, like doing the neck, I picked up a lot more stitches than what it said to do. I figured out how to do these decently jogless stripes. Still, the only issue I have is that you can kind of see where I caught the floats in that line, but it's only really if I stretch it. Like it doesn't look too bad like that. Yeah, I really don't have too much to say about this. That's the nice thing. I feel like once you get through a pattern and you work out all the kinks and issues that you have, then doing it again, like doing it a second time, it just flies by and it's so quick. I really enjoyed knitting this, and I feel like it went super quickly. Whereas this, I enjoyed like the first part of it, but then all the parts where you realize something went wrong, I have to fix it, I have to redo work. That just kind of like takes the air out from under you a bit. So I have really great memories of knitting this, and then just because of that last sleeve, it just felt like this project took forever. But again, maybe with a bit of time, my brain will kind of forget all that. And yeah, it is nice like having it turn out in a way that you know that you'll actually use it. So yeah, I don't know, nothing really exciting to say about this. I'm excited to give these to them for Christmas. They both already obviously have tried them on to make sure it fits, but I'll just tuck them away for the next month, and then yeah, then I'll get them on Christmas. That's it for my finished objects. I do have a few works in progress. I decided to have another go at the double slippers pattern with those modifications that I said I wanted to make. Okay, just a second. So I do have another, well, the first of a pair of these slippers cast on. I am using Briggs & Little Atlantic 3-ply yarn in the color 12, medium gray. Does this yarn look familiar? This used to be my Wednesday sweater by Petite Knit. This was the first ever sweater that I made. I hate it, I never wear it. I think that the yarn would be a lot better in slipper form, felted slipper form. So I completely unraveled it and yeah, have started making these slippers. My idea is to make a pair of slippers for each person in my family, like me, my husband, and our 2 kids for Christmas. And this will be our like Christmas knit project for me. So yeah, I did do a seamless cast on. Like I did a Turkish cast on, so I've already started my modifications. I actually found a video that really goes in depth just with this pattern on how to do all of the modifications that I was talking about, like seamless cast on and making one of the feet, I think she does this, making one of the feet a little bit smaller than the other one to fit inside better. Yeah, I'm going to put the video, I'll put a link to the video below, so if you want to try this and do those modifications like right from the beginning, you can, because I found her video really helpful. It's really in depth and she explains things so well. If I had seen this video before I started this pair, I would have made the changes like to my first pair that I made, but I didn't see the video, so I didn't make the changes. I'm doing them now. So yeah, you can see that I won't have to do a seam here at the end. I have no idea if I'm on gauge or not. I measured gauge for these ones after I had finished the kind of like rectangular bit, and I'll just do the same with this. I feel like this yarn is much better suited for felted slippers than it was for the Wednesday sweater. So I'm happy that I am repurposing some yarn that otherwise would have just sat and collected dust and honestly just like been a bed for one of our cats. And then my second work in progress is a pair of red socks. I really wanted to do a pair of red socks for myself for Christmas. And so I got some really bright red yarn. This is Briggs & Little 1-ply sport weight yarn, and it's in the color 74 Scarlet. I did get the kind that has no nylon in it, so it will be like 100% wool socks. I have worked with this yarn before, and I always forget it's 1-ply, and it really like wants to twist on itself, like while you're working with it. As you're working, it like the yarn that you're going to use is all kind of twisted on itself, and I don't know, it's very rustic. I do love the socks that I have made with this. I feel like every time I wash them, they get softer and kind of fluffier. So I know that it's worth it. Anyway, let's talk about the pattern I'm using. I haven't really started the pattern yet, but I'm gonna do Hermione's Everyday Socks. I thought that it would look good in straight red, and I'm knitting this on pretty small needles, 2.25 millimeter needles. I wanted to have a little like rolled cuff at the top. So I did 6 rounds of stockinette first, and then I started doing 2x2 ribbing. I cast on 60 stitches for this sock, and I think it's too small. Like with this needle size, I tried it on as it is, and I feel like the effect of this cute little rolled cuff is lost once it's like stretched out over my calf. So I think this is going to be another project that I have to just completely rip out and start over. Either I'm going to have like a decent amount more stitches with the rolled cuff, or I'm going to have to just eliminate this rolled cuff, because it doesn't look like this once it's all stretched out. Like once it's stretched out over your leg, you kind of lose it. Yeah, you kind of lose that effect of like it looking kind of not frilly, but yeah, you know what I mean. So I do like the look of the 2x2 rib in this yarn and this needle size. So yeah, I'll have to do some more thinking about this. And now that I'm done these sweaters, I'll have the brain space to think about exactly what I want to do with this sock, because what I wanted was a thin sock. That's why I went with sport weight yarn on really small needles. I wanted a thin sock that was red, and I wanted it to be fairly tall, like decently tall, like maybe like halfway up my calf. So I do need the cuff to like be able to fit around halfway up my calf. So yeah, I'll have to do some more thinking about this, I think. But I love this color, and I have this outfit in mind for what I want to wear as like a, not like this is my Christmas outfit, but like a Christmassy themed outfit with these red socks and my green sweater number 18. I feel like that would be like Christmassy without being like, oh, that's a Christmas sweater, like that's a Christmas outfit. So I have red and green, and yeah. So yeah, like I said, now that I'm done these, actually, and just talking about it, I know I said I wanted to take a bit of a break, but maybe I just needed to be done with stripes and like this kind of project, because talking about this, I'm like, I feel like I want to knit these now. So yeah, if I want to get them done for Christmas, plus all of these slippers, this is only the first pair, I'm gonna have to get going. I don't know if I can take a break. I take it back what I said, I guess. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. The only knitting acquisition I made was this yarn, which I've already talked about. So that's it. Thanks for hanging out and listening to me talk through all my problems with specifically this sweater right here. I hope if you are choosing to gift knit this year, I hope you are making good progress on that and are happy with the things that you're making. And I hope you all have a wonderful start to the holiday season. I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.